Preparing your dog. Fundamental information. There are numerous viewpoints to investigate when attempting to prepare a pet, and coming up next are a portion of the spaces to consider and how to approach doing as such. One of the principal regions that are cause for concern and stress is latrine. Preparing the pet. A few pets are simpler to prepare around here than others. There are approaches to investigate with regards to latrine preparing a canine, and with a little exploration and a great deal of persistence, conceivable to track down the most ideal way that will suit both the canine and the proprietor well. Another region that is generally a reason for concern is the manner by which the canine acts in some random climate. A few varieties adjust well to changes in their environmental factors, for example, commotion levels, climate conditions, more individuals present, and whatever else that modifies the standard prompt climate of the creature, while others can be significantly upset. Training the canine to forego obliterating everything without exception around is additionally another region that needs thinking. A lot of animal people regularly whine about their things being harmed by their pets, and they feel frail in resolving this issue. Here too, with some investigation into the matter, the proprietor ought to have the option to think of arrangements in managing this issue in a level-headed and harmless way. Training a pet to acknowledge another expansion to the family is additionally similarly significant, particularly when there is an option of a child. What equipment do you need prior to settling on what hardware to use to prepare the canine? The proprietor should initially distinguish the motivation behind the preparation and the ultimate objective wanted. There are a lot of issues that add to an instructional course, and having a reasonable objective as a top priority will help both the canine and the proprietor to cooperate to accomplish the objective. What you will need. There is additionally the need to distinguish the sort of preparation that will be required dependent on the objective set. In the event that the preparation is just to make a few limits for the canine, the proprietor will actually want to recognize a less vivacious preparing style to use to accomplish the goal, with minimal measure of despair on the two sides. The gear required will likewise be extremely fundamental. For example, a canine chain, a canine choker, and maybe some delectable treats. Notwithstanding, if the preparation will be for more engaged objectives, for example, making a title show canine or a seeing eye canine, then, at that point, the hardware required will be extensively unique and most certainly more specially crafted to these objectives. The more complicated the objective, the more engaged the preparation gear will be. These kinds of hardware will normally be sourced from niche stores that are exceptional to give an assortment of explicitly planned things for canine preparing. The neighborhood pet shops will generally not convey such handcrafted gear. In this way, there is a need to realize what is required before the real sourcing measure starts. The proprietor ought to likewise be knowledgeable in how to utilize the hardware bought and comprehend its significant purposes. Neglecting to do this vital errand won't help in the genuine preparing exercise, as the canine will possibly wind up being confounded and disappointed when the orders given fluctuate excessively and the gear utilized doesn't relate with it. Start with easy commands encouraging a canine to react to specific orders in an unmistakable manner requires speaking with the creature on a level that can without much of a stretch be perceived. The canine's reaction to the orders will show the comprehension of the order given, and assuming the ideal result is clear, the order is considered perceived. In this way, the proprietor ought to, in a perfect world, set aside the effort to distinguish a couple of straightforward orders and set up them as a regular occurrence in a basic and harmless manner. Start small. Coming up next are a portion of the more famous orders that most canines can identify with. Come. This is presumably the main order that ought to be educated to the creature as quickly as time permits. This is significant in depicting the canine, who is in charge, and preparing the canine until a prompt reaction is gotten to the order will be required. Sit. This is one more order that is famously instructed to the canine, as it empowers the proprietor to get the canine to concentrate, stay composed. At whatever point the canine gets too sensitive, this order is generally given to calm the creature and make a feeling of quiet. This order is likewise utilized when there is a need to prevent the canine from moving around and is particularly valuable for eating times. Preparing the canine to sit and hold back to be served its dinner is a famous justification for this order. Stay. This order is typically given when there is a need to immobilize the canine promptly with any actual intercession. It is typically given to hold the canine back from creating a ruckus or turning into an annoyance to others around. Nonetheless, this isn't actually a simple order to get the canine to partake in, as canines are by and large extremely inquisitive and well-disposed creatures, and limiting them can be an errand. Continuing on to more advanced commands when a canine has effectively taken in every one of the essential orders. There might be an interest with respect to the proprietor to wander further into some high-level orders for the canine. These further developed orders might be an expansion of the current essential ones or something absolutely new. Be that as it may, much of the time, they are only an augmentation of orders currently knowledgeable for both canine and proprietor. The harder stuff, preparing the spot order, is maybe the subsequent stage, since it is a development to the sit order. This is an order where the canine really stops at a particular point close to the proprietor and anticipates further directions. This can be additionally stretched out by getting the canine to make roundabout movements around the proprietor in the journey to be showier to spectators. Another well-known order that is considered further developed is the sit and stay order. This helps the canine to remain in one spot, in any event, when the proprietor moves away. Assuming the canine naturally follows, which is consistently the standard, the proprietor needs to get the canine to comprehend that they are needed to stay in the assigned spot. Coordinating the canine back to the position planned each time it moves will ultimately make the comprehension of what is required, in this manner making an effective order productive. Encouraging the canine to stay in one spot for extensive stretches of time is likewise one more progressed order that can be fairly valuable. This is particularly so if the proprietor needs to go into shops or bistros where pets are not permitted. Having the option to get the canine to sit unobtrusively, disregarding the interruptions that might emerge, while the proprietor is inside, will be certainly worth the work. When the canine comprehends the proprietor's orders, these activities will be effectively accomplished. House training, despite the fact that it appears to be exceptionally unfeeling to expect a creature as well, hold it, where people can simply search for a latrine, will assist the creature with presenting a type of routine. This will assist with facilitating the wait of having a worried pet and proprietor. No more accidents. Coming up next are a few stages that can be taken to assist with preparing the creature to be house prepared with fewer events of mishaps. Picking a specific spot where the proprietor needs the canine to ultimately distinguish as the latrine region is something that ought to be done in a reliable way. By seeing when the canine is probably going to require a latrine break and taking the creature promptly to the assigned region until the deed is done will show the creature the meaning of the assigned region. Additionally, pampering recognition when the deed is refined will additionally assist with supporting the thought behind taking the canine to the predetermined region. Take an opportunity to comprehend the canine is likewise a significant piece of preparing the canine. Most canines can't connect dissatisfaction with the genuine demonstration of easing themselves, as proprietors frequently don't get them in the demonstration. A proprietor's censure is typically just an endless supply of the mishap or wreck. Consequently, the creature will ultimately relate the objection to the wreck and not simply the genuine activity of alleviating. It is significant for the proprietor to build up the objection at the time the deed is really done as opposed to after, to guarantee the creature comprehends the offense. Whenever this is set up, the two players can cooperate to discover an answer that would be as peaceful as could be expected. The proprietor ought to consistently recall not to come down on the creature, as it just has a restricted ability to getting things. Make a point to use rewards and not punishment. Exploration has demonstrated, in numerous spaces of canine responsive conduct, that compensating the canine is undeniably more useful than rebuffing it. This is extremely decisive, and most canine proprietors presently pick compensations over disciplines dependent on similar apparent outcomes. Adopt a positive strategy. A canine prepared by utilizing the discipline technique will typically make a creature that is scared of the proprietor or mentor. Canines that react dreadfully additionally, at last, become desensitized and now and again decide to disregard the coach or proprietor, just because of the disarray the bridle of the discipline causes. Canines prepared to agree just dependent on the dread of discipline are an abandoned sight to see and are extremely deplorable, particularly for the more delicate person. This is awful for both the canine and the person, who will just wind up damaged by the instructional meetings. Most canine proprietors cannot adapt to such a sight, which might even reason the canine further disarray. Interestingly, nonetheless, the positive methodology of remunerations inside the preparation technique is typically better gotten with inevitable wanted outcomes approaching. Pets for the most part react well to prizes, as they will figure out how to relate certain standards of conduct as satisfying to the proprietor and along these lines right and okay. Albeit most canines react well to prizes and work as needs be with the proprietor to accomplish the ideal outcomes, these prizes should be planned effectively.